Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we are trying to discuss about this particular Jdbc template here. Observe carefully what we are doing here. So let me go to the person DOI MPL. Here we are trying to modify the code. So observe in the last session we discussed about this particular save person. So using this particular method, we are trying to update the code, like we are trying to insert the code into this particular database. So which database we are using? Here now you can see, like we are trying to connect with our Postgres database, and this is the driver name and URL we are having, username and password we provided. And internally we connected with this particular JDBC from this particular person DO class. Okay, so the person DO finally it is trying to connect it from the person service. Now if I'm going to show you the code, so what are all the records we inserted? So these are all the some records we inserted in the last session. Now observe, I'm going to load the objects here. How we are trying to load this particular object here? Using this particular method. So whatever the get method we implemented, using this particular get method, we are trying to load these objects here. Okay, so now observe, here I'm using this particular row mapper. Internally, what it will do, it will try to return the object type here. Okay, it will return this particular object type. So now observe, here I'm going to create a what object we need to create. We need to create this particular person object. So we'll see the query, what is the value it is going to return first. Because we are expecting list of persons here. So this particular query is returning the list of or not. Type saver, basically it is not row mapper. So if I'm going to provide this person, what happens internally? Here I'm trying to creating this particular person object, and after loading this particular person, what we can understand, person dot set ID. So and how I'm trying to load here. So this is the result set here. So using this particular result set, we'll try to convert into this particular object here. So rs dot get into. Now what is the column index we can provide? Here we can provide this particular ID, and person dot not get set person name, first name, and rs dot get string. And what we can provide here? Here we need to provide the first name. So this is the column of this particular table, and set last name, rs dot get string. Here what is the type I'm providing? So like it is a data type we use as a string here, and inside this particular string I'm trying to providing the particular column name. Now finally what we can do, here we can return this particular person. Okay, we can return this particular person here. Now, so what happens internally? This particular query, how many object is trying to return here? If I'm going to copy this, we need to understand this person list. So it is trying to return this particular list of objects here. Getting the point. Now, after this, finally what I'm doing here I'm going to check this particular condition. So what is the condition we can check here? Simply, we can check this particular condition. Okay, directly here only we can check here condition. Person dot, so size here. So size method, if it is greater than 0, now what we will do? Person list. Okay, otherwise, now what I will do? Like here, now I'm going to return collection dot empty list. This is the value I'm going to return. Getting the pen. This is important here. Type save the conversion in and check it here. Now you can see what I'm doing here. So whatever we provided here, person list, if it is size greater than 0, we are trying to return this particular person list. Otherwise, we'll try to return this particular empty list here. Now from where this particular method we can call, and inside this particular person service, here we can call this particular method here. Now you can see public here, list of persons, and what we can understand here, this particular list of person, it will try to load get all person and internally return something like person do dot get all person. Okay, and here we need to import this particular list section. Whenever I'm trying to import here, so we have a person, not persons here. This is completed. From where we can call this particular method? So here we are trying to use, now I'm going to comment out this section because we are not going to save this particular data. We'll try to load the data from the database. Service dot get all persons here. Service dot get all persons I'm trying to call, and so we can check this particular condition. If this particular collection, if it is not empty, collections dot any condition we have is empty. Okay, here we don't have. So now what I will do, simply here only I'm going to check here. Whatever this particular get person we are going to check here, and here I'm trying to check with is empty, and here if it is not empty. Okay, if it is not empty, we'll enter into this particular section, and now what I will do, here I'm going to call this method. Okay, so this is not the good way. So 2 times it is calling it, no need to write the condition. Simply after loading the value only, we can check this particular condition here. Okay, here all persons. After this, we can check here. All person dot is empty. So this is the way of checking this particular is empty. And if it is not empty, like is empty, what we will do? We'll try to call all persons dot for each year. Now what we will do? We'll try to return the person dot get first name. So this particular get person name I'm trying to print inside this particular sysout, and one more get last name and person dot get ID. Okay, so this is, so instead of printing this, first we'll run whether we are getting objects or not. Now you can see we are getting this particular objects here. So these are all the records. Now instead of printing this, now what we can do? So first we'll go to this particular person, whether do we have this particular toString or not. Yes, we have a toString. So whenever we are having this particular toString, now what we can do? We'll go to here. I'm not going to write this particular code here. Whatever the code we write here, not required here. Simply you can write sysout. So see carefully how this particular toString is going to work internally. And I'm closing this. I'm not writing any much code here. Now simply I'm trying to run this. Now if you see this, so this is the person ID, like ID 10 and name of the person, Spring Jdbc. So 11 ID, 12, 13 and 14 and 15. Getting the point. These are all the records we are trying to load from this particular Postgres database here. Okay, this is important. We need to understand here how it is performing it. It's simply we are calling from the person service. From the person service, we are trying to call this particular, the name of the method call get all persons. Now internally, what is doing it? It is trying to call this particular get all person. And what is the query we implemented? If I'm going to show you, it's a simple query. Select star from person. It will try to load the all the records here. Okay, it is trying to load the all the records. So now it's loading the all the records here, and it is trying to creating this particular person object each and every, and the record it is returning into the person here. Okay, and if the size is greater than 0, we are returning this. Otherwise, we are returning empty list here. So this particular empty list where we are checking the condition, here we are checking the condition. If it is not empty, then only we are trying to give the option to the enter into this particular the condition, and it is trying to repeating multiple times here. Okay, so any questions so regarding this particular get all person method?
Could you repeat once?
So it's a simple one. Now you can see, like inside the service, person service, we have a person service here. I created one method. So here now you can see we have a one method get all person we are having, and internally I'm calling person do dot get all person. So person do basically it is a interface. Okay, now what I'm doing here, I'm calling the one of the method called get all person. So where it is implemented, this method, if you see this, it is declared inside this particular person do, and this method is implemented inside this particular person do MPL. How it is implemented? Here we are implementing from the person do interface here. So now what I'm doing here, I'm calling Jdbc template here, and this is the query we are providing, get all query. Okay, this particular get all query, internally it will try to load all the records from the Postgres database, and now we are trying to converting into each and every person object. So here we are trying to providing the generic type. What is the object type we are trying to returning? Something like a person. So using this particular person we are returning here. Okay, it's simply if the person list size greater than 0, we will try to return this particular person list because it is a ternary operator we are using here. And if this particular person list is size is 0, so it will match this particular code whatever we are implementing. Simply we are returning empty list here. So this particular empty list does not contain any records here. Okay, so any questions? Okay, so now what I will do, and instead of this particular loading the value from here property file, now if you see this here, I'm providing the values here. Okay, value, this is the one more value, and username and properties like the password information. Now what we can do here, this is not the good way of writing this example here. Like this is not the good way of providing the all the properties inside this particular XML file here. Getting the point? This is important here, because in the real time we are not going to write this example like this particular value. So we'll come up with the one properties file. So inside the property file, we'll define this particular all the values here. Okay, all the values we are going to define. So how we can define this? Now you can see I'm trying to creating one property file here. So file I'm creating something like we can create a multiple files here. For example, spring-jdbc dot like a property file I'm trying to create. So the extension should be extend with the properties here. Whatever the extension we are trying to creating here, it should extend with this particular properties here. Getting the point? This is important, we need to understand. So this particular file, we'll call it as a property file, and inside this particular property file, what we are going to provide all the database related file here, because here we are trying to creating spring-jdbc. Now what we can understand here, what we can understand this. So here we need to provide the okay. So what is the information we are trying to providing here? So observe, whatever this particular Spring JDBC, here the value we are using, now I'm trying to copy this. Okay, this value I'm trying to copy, and I will use this particular value inside the property file. So we can modify directly inside the property file. Wherever we are trying to use this particular information, it will reflect it. Okay, so now Control E. Now I'm going to this particular section, and here I'm providing. So this is the value. So what is the key? So this particular property file, it is going to store as a key value pair. Getting the point? It is going to store as a key value pair. So here simply database dot driver. Okay. So this is the database dot driver is our key, and the value it should be org postgres dot driver. Now what I will do, again I'm going to here. So inside this particular value, I'm not going to use the whatever the value we provided. Simply I'm going to use this particular key. Getting the point? I'm using this particular key, so it is appending with this particular dollar, so that it will look up the value which is available inside this particular spring-jdbc dot properties here. Okay, so same way one more value. So one is the another value we can use, something like this particular URL. Now again I'm trying to paste this particular value, and here database dot URL. So database dot URL. Now again I'm trying to copy this. Here I will paste this particular URL, and here this particular username. So this is also I'm trying to copy, and same thing you can provide database dot username. Okay, and another one. Now what I'm doing here, so this particular section database dot password. Okay, now I'm going to this section, and here so database dot username is equals to postgres, and the password also what we provided here, the same password we provided for this particular postgres database, and now save. Getting the point? So we created this particular property file. So anything we want to make here, now if I'm going to run this example, first we'll save all the files here. After saving this particular example, if I'm trying to load this particular object, what happening internally? So if you read this particular messages here, driver class name, the driver class name basically it is trying to throw an exception. So what is an exception it is trying to throw? Could not load this particular JDBC driver class. So whatever we provided here, it is trying to load the value, but the value it could not identify here. Getting the point? So whatever the value we are trying to load here, this particular value, it could not identify it here. So what is the case what we are missing here? So just we declare this particular property files here. Like just we move this particular information into the property file. But how we are sharing the information to this particular container, these properties are available inside this particular spring-jdbc dot properties file. So this information we need to share to the container. So then only it will try to load the property information from the specified file here. But how we can load here? So we have one class here. The class we need to configure in our in our this particular property files here, the configuration files here. Okay. Now what is the tag we need to configure here? So now if you observe here, I'm trying to provide this section. Property placeholder. Okay, whatever the property we are discussing here, the particular property placeholder we need to define here. So now key in like ID we can define anything here, but the value we can take any value. So now property. So what is the property? What is the file we are trying to use? Spring-jdbc. And class we need to use. What is the class we need to use here? I'm trying to show this particular class. So something like property. So placeholder. So this is the class we need to use. Property placeholder configure. So we have two classes. So first one is trying to get from the 3.1.2 release, and the second one it is trying to load from the 4.2.9. So because of this particular Spring MVC, it is trying to load. Now what I will do, I will try to copy this particular example. So I'm copying this. Now we'll go to this particular file and I will specify this. So same thing, property, whatever the property we are configured. So the class we are trying to providing here. Okay. Now what we can do, so where this particular class is available inside this particular package. So what is the package here? Something like org spring framework beans.factory.config. Now observe carefully how we are defining this particular packages here. So first one we have identified core package. So now we are discussing the factory, and under the factory we have one config here. So same like in the real time also we are going to create these are all the different packages here. Getting the point? These are all the different packages we are going to create. So now where is the file? This is the file. Why it is look like? Okay, now I'm going to provide this value. Okay, now we provided this. So any property it is having here, this particular property placeholder configure, yes, it is having the property, because so once we declare this particular bean, it is not going to load yet. We need to provide the information where these particular properties are available. Where these particular properties are available. Now, if you observe the property name, I'm going to provide as a location, and here you can provide the value. Here you can provide the value. So where this particular location it is available, it will try to look over this particular source directory. So if the file is available in the source directory, automatically it will try to load here. Now copy this particular file name here. What is the file name we created? Something like spring-jdbc dot property file. Now same file I'm trying to providing here. Okay, this is the main information we need to configure like this here. So property placeholder configure. Now I will go to this particular main file here. Now again I'm trying to run this example. Now you can see, so we are trying to load all the information. But right now what we can understand, so instead of making static values, now I'm making the dynamic value. Now what we will do, here we are not going to modify anything. Inside this particular file, we are not going to modify anything. Directly, we'll go to this particular spring-jdbc.property file. If we want to add any new key and value, or if you want to if you want to modify this anything, you can replace this. Get it in point. So inside this particular, the XML file we cannot modify here. So directly, if you are modifying this property file, automatically it will reflected into the particular XML file here. Okay. So any questions so regarding this particular property placeholder configure class?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Explain one more time, sir. Configuration part, sir.
Okay. Now you can see what we are doing is simply we are trying to create one bean here. Okay. So what is the name of the bean we are trying to creating here? Something like a property placeholder configure. So what is the purpose of this particular bean? What it will do? It will try to load the property files. Whatever the properties file we are trying to create here, it will try to load. From where it is going to load? Inside this particular source directory. So where this particular source directory is available? Here. So this SRC will call it as a source directory. Okay, inside the source directory, if you're trying to providing any files here, automatically it will load by this particular property placeholder. So now we are sharing the information. Like this is the file, the property we are having location, and I'm trying to providing this particular file. So by default, it is trying to look out this particular file under the source directory. Now once this particular file is loaded, now what we are doing here internally, here we are trying to modifying the files. Like with the help of this particular key value pair, we are updating the value. So what is the key? Database driver. Now this particular key we will use under this particular the XML file. Now you can see database driver. So with the help of this particular dollar, we need to come up with this particular section. We'll call it as a expression language. Okay, expression language. In the Spring, we have a expression language. We'll discuss this particular expression language, how it is going to work. But what you need to understand is, with help of this particular expression language, we are providing the key information. Now, instead of setting this particular key, it will try to look up the value. So where the values resides here, this is the value. After the equal, whatever we are trying to providing, this will treat as a value. This value is going to replace it with the help of this particular key. Okay, now database driver, now it is replaced with the org, the Postgres driver. Same way, the URL is going to replace, and same way, the username and password is going to refresh here. Getting the point? This is one of the important example we need to understand here. Okay, so this is all about the simple example we are discussing.
Okay.
And now, okay, now what I'm doing is I'm trying to discuss with one more method. So what is another method we can discuss it? Like only the two methods we identified inside this particular person DYMPL, save person, and get all person. Now I want to load the object based on the ID. Okay, I want to load the object based on this particular ID. So for this, now what we can do? So simply we'll try to create this particular section here. So what is the method we can create here? Public I'm trying to create, and get person by ID. Okay, and what is ID we provided? Like what is the data type? Something like int we provided. And here I'm going to return person object. Based on this particular ID, we are going to load the person record, and it will try to return one of the person here. Now, what we can do? We need to load this object. Like we need to implement this particular method internally. We'll try to connect with the same here. So what is the query we can define here? What is the query we can define? Provide final string load person. Load person with ID. Okay, this is important. So basically, this section will call it as a constraints here. Getting the point? So whatever we are writing here with help of this particular private to final strings here, this is we call it as a constraints. So what exactly this particular constraints will do? This is the common place, and this query is like this particular SQL queries we are going to use wherever it is required here. Because of that, it is we are trying to return in the common place. Getting the point? So this is important because in the real-time scenarios, like in the real-time application, whatever the code it is going to reusable, we'll try to create the code in the utility files here, and from the utility files here, we'll try to call the same code multiple times here. Getting the point? This is important here. Right. So specific implementation only we'll write in the specific classes, but all the common sections will move into the utility sections here. Okay. So same thing you can imagine. This queries also we can like move into the utility file and we can call directly with help of the particular class name. Okay. Now if you see load person with ID. Now what is the query we can write here? So select star from person where ID. Where ID is equals to what we can provide? We can provide the question mark here. Okay, this is, for example, now observe, here we are having one utility file. So inside this particular JDBC only, so I'm going to create one utility file. So now, what is the class we can utilities? Something like okay, so I'm creating this particular class, and where is the file? Percentage. Now I will remove from here. Okay, I'm removing from here, and here I'm trying to providing here. Now here we can add static. So why I'm adding this particular static here? Because no need to create an object to access this particular section. Getting the point? No need to create this particular section to access this particular queries, whatever we are trying to access here. Now directly we'll go to this particular person DUIMPL, and here I can provide. So JDBC, so Spring JDBC utility, you can access this. Okay, so it is we provided private. So we need to make as a public here. Okay, because we are trying to access from the outside of this particular class. Whenever we are trying to providing information, this particular constants information, we need to provide as a private. But whenever we are trying to provide this section inside the outside of this particular class, we can move on to the public here. So now you can see Spring JDBC utility. Now I'm calling this particular get all method, and the same way here we are going to call this. So how I'm trying to call here? Something like JDBC template. Okay, so JDBC template. So what is the method we can call here to update this particular person or this particular get person here? So now you can see, so we have a method called query for object. And here, what is an object we can return? We need to return the person type here. So we need to check here which method is suitable. It will try to return the object. Getting the point? This is important. Now, object array. So SQL query element type. It is trying to return the list of objects here. Getting the point? It is trying to return this particular list of objects here. Now what we can do? So simply we can go for this particular class type object array. It's trying to return the list of map of this, and class type we can provide, and anything we are having row mapper related section, SQL query class type is expecting, and so we need to provide the condition value also. So for the condition value we can use this class type row mapper into argument type. We'll see this one is suitable. So what is the SQL we can use? Load with a person ID. Now copy this Spring JDBC utility class and make dot. Okay, the file is loaded. After this, we need to provide the values. New object array I'm trying to create, and here I'm going to pass ID. Getting the point? Now finally, what we can do? So row mapper. Whatever the row mapper we created here, getting the point? Whatever this particular row mapper we created, this particular row map it is going to return here. Right. So simply this section. So instead of creating this, now what I will do? Here I'm going to provide two parameters. And first one is RS, second one is row number. Okay. So this is I'm trying to providing here. After this, what we can understand here, I'm going to create a object here. So what is object we can create? Person object. Okay. So this is the way of returning this section. Now internally query for object, what is returning here? Person type. Okay. Person we cannot do. And what is the name we can provide? Something like result set person. So RS is nothing but result set person. Now what I'm doing here, I'm going to check this particular condition. If this particular person not equals to null. So how we can check this particular not equals to null? Instead of checking not equals to null condition, we can use object dot not null, and we can pass this particular RS person. And here I'm going to make the question mark, and here I will paste this particular RS person. Otherwise, I will provide null. Getting the point? This is important. We need to understand. So now observe carefully. Here we are trying to come up with the for each style. Like this particular section, we am implementing lambda. Okay. So this particular above section with help of the anonymous interface. Basically, row mapper is an interface. Getting the point? So now if you go to this row mapper, you will understand here it is an interface. But internally, what we are doing is we are trying to creating this particular method. Row mapper, it's contain the map row method. So it is trying to take this particular result set. So inside the result set only, we are going to have the object, and it will try to provide the row number. So how many rows are affected, it will update this particular second parameter. But as of now, we are not checking any this particular row number here. Because if you are interested very familiarly, like how many rows are affected, we can call this row number, and it will give you the count. It will give you the particular count here. So far, we don't need this particular section. So basically, just we are trying to return the object. Now, this is the method I'm trying to call. Now, what we can do? This method we are going to provide inside this particular person service. Now, public person, the same name of the method I'm using, int ID, and I will return person devo.id. Okay. Now we'll go to the main file. Inside this particular main file, I'm going to comment out this section. And here, service.get person ID. What is ID we can provide? Something like 10 I'm trying to give. Okay. If this particular 10 it is returning, again we need to check this particular condition. So object not equals to null, person by ID, and simply what we can do, if this person by ID is not equals to null, we'll try to return this particular person by ID. Okay, simply I'm printing this. Now I'm trying to run this example, so we can see what happening internally. We are trying to get the first record whatever we inserted inside this particular Postgres database. Okay, this is the way of writing this particular code. So null checking also is important here. So objects dot not equals null, here we are checking, and inside this particular person DAO, again here we are checking. So why we are checking? If it is not equals null, we are returning this. Otherwise, we return this particular null value. For example, if I'm trying to give the person service, where is the main class? Here, if I'm trying to give as a 17, so far we don't have any 17 records. Okay, so far we don't have any 17 records. Now you can see basically it is returning a exception here. So incorrect result. Getting the point? Incorrect result. Basically it is expected 1 count and actually it is 0. Basically from where we are getting it? So this is internally written by our Jdbc template here. So where we are getting, now you can see here the line number Jdbc template.java 730. So from the 730 line number we are getting, and in our person DYMPL line number 51. Now you can see. So this is the line we are calling it, and internally it is calling this particular 730, and this particular 730 we are getting an exception here. Now what you need to understand here, so this is important here. So you can handle this particular exception. For example, how we can handle? Now you can write the try block. Okay, I'm trying to write this particular try block, and I'm trying to write the particular catch block. So you can handle this. This exception also you can handle. Right? Now you can print to whatever the message you are trying to print. So here, what happened? This is, we need to import here. Now we imported this section, and finally, what we can do here? Simply we can provide the exception, something like a message. So what is the message we can write here? So incorrect result. So we cannot write here. Something like with the given ID. So let's try with this ID we can access. With this particular given ID. So no record found in database. Okay, this is we can return, and simply here return null. Simply we can return null. Getting the point? This is important here. Now if I'm going to make format here, so it is already formatted here. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to run the same example. With the same example, what you can understand here, with this particular given ID something like 17, no record found in our database. So observe carefully how we are handling. So earlier we got the big exception. Getting the point? But right now we are not getting any exception. Simply the message we are getting. Simply the message we are getting. For example, here I'm not using this condition. Okay, if I'm not using this particular condition, here only I will pause this and I'm going to comment to this. Again, I'm trying to run the same example. Now you can see here we are getting null. Okay, so here we are getting null. So earlier, because of this particular condition, it is not satisfied. So we did not get any the print statement here. But right now we are getting. But observe, this is important here. Whenever you are trying to write any query, so you can handle with exceptions here with the help of this particular try and catch block here, so that the application is not going to stop here. Getting the point? Application is not going to stop. We are printing this particular message and we are trying to run our application. So just this particular message printing, and we are returning this particular null, and directly we are coming to the main method. We are checking one more time the method object is null or not. Okay, if I'm not adding this particular try and catch block, what happens internally? So it will stop the application. So it will not come back to the line number 21 here. Getting the point? It will not come back to the line number 21. So this is important here. So any questions? So regarding this particular person by ID? Okay, if we don't have anything, now what we can do, we'll try to call the same like insert person here, like whenever we are trying to update. So final record here, we need to update this particular record here. So how I'm trying to update here, if you observe here only, like inside the person do only, we can write public. So updated person we can print, or message we can print. Simply we can print this particular message here. I think message also not needed. So we will make a void only. Okay, and update person. So first parameter I'm going to give as ID, and the second parameter, now what I will do here, I'm going to pass person object. This is important. Okay, this is the method I'm trying to provide this particular method. Based on this particular ID, first we'll load the record, and later we can update this particular record. Okay, now what we can do, we'll override this particular method one more time and implement this particular method. So here we are trying to unimplement this. Now finally, what we can do, so basically you can update this particular section directly. You can update this particular section directly here, but simple query I'm going to write here, whatever we used here, this query only, not this section. And I think ID also not required here. So no problem. But what we can do, we'll need to create the, instead of this particular insert query, we need to create the update query. Okay, so far this update query is no longer available. Now what we can do, we need to create this. So inside this particular Jdbc utility, we need to create this. So here I'm making the null, but we cannot make this particular null. What we can do, update, what is the table we are having? Something like a person. I want to set to the fields here. What are the fields I'm trying to set here? Okay, now you can see update person set. I am going to provide first name is equals to question mark, and last name is equals to question mark, and what we can do, so we need to provide the so ID will be same, right? So we'll use the only two fields. So we'll try to update this particular two fields here. We'll make a query here where ID is equals to question mark here. Getting the point? This is important here. So we are trying to update only first name and last name based on this particular ID here. Okay. So this is the query we are going to use here. Now we'll go back to this particular same update, and I'm going to provide ID and first name and last name. First name and last name I'm providing here. So something like so where condition should be last, we can provide. And not inserted, it is updated. So here what we can provide, I want to provide this particular ID. Okay, so whatever this particular ID I'm providing, this is the message we are going to get, otherwise the exception we are going to get here. Now I will go to this, only name is fine, person service, update person into ID person. Okay, and this is Now, if I'm going to the main file, I will comment out these two sections here. It is not required. Here, what we can do, service dot update person. So what is the update person we can provide here? Something like so 13 record. Okay, 13 record I'm trying to provide, and where is the person? Here I'm going to copy this. ID I'm going to give same, and what is the object we can provide? Something like spring hyphen JDBC, and the last name we will call it as a update here. Okay, we'll call it as a update here. Now I'm trying to run this particular example. Now I can see what happens internally. So updated whatever this particular 13 record, getting whatever this particular 13 record we are providing, it is updated successfully. Now what we can do, we'll go to this particular 13.1 here. So spring hyphen JDBC update. Getting the point. So here now the last record we can identify here. This record is updated here. Any questions regarding this particular CUD operation? Okay. So I'm not seeing any responses. I hope all are clear. Now we'll move on to the another important section called JDBC template we discuss here. Now we need to discuss about the named parameter JDBC template. Getting the point. So it is important here how we can discuss about the named parameter JDBC template. So if I want to discuss this particular named parameter JDBC template, what is the first step? Getting the point. So what is the first step we need to discuss here? So if we observe carefully, here I'm going to modify the code. Inside this particular Spring JDBC, we are not going to use this particular JDBC. We'll discuss about the named parameter JDBC template. So where we can modify, here we can modify the code. Okay, instead of modifying this particular class, now what I will do, I will create the one more class here. Person DAO named parameter. Okay, so this is the person DAO named parameter template will contain the named parameter JDBC template here. Now you can see how we are defining this particular section. If you go to this particular person DAO, how we are defining this particular JDBC template, same way we need to define this named parameter JDBC template. Okay, simply template. So simply we can move on to this particular template here, and we'll try to create this particular setter method. So click on this particular setters, and this select only setters. We don't need this particular getter section. Now finally we'll try to implement this section from the same whatever the person DAO we provided here. Now what we can do, we need to implement all the methods so far whatever the method we discuss here. Okay, so this is the important information we can understand here. Now what we need to write here. So again I want to save the object. I want to save this particular objective. So how we can save this? How we can save this particular example? This is important here. Getting the point. Now what I will do, I am going to call the same method here. Let me go for this particular file. Where is the utility file here? I want to write okay, so here name or parameter JDBC template queries. Okay, this is the way we can write the comment here. Now we can define the all the JDBC related queries here. So first one I want to copy here. Getting the point. First one I want to copy here. Now observe, and instead of this particular question marks, what we can do here, I'm going to provide the first one ID, sorry, and the second one first name, and third one last name. This is important, we need to understand here. So insert SQL, so this is we cannot use. So insert underscore, like here we can write a named underscore insert SQL. This is the query we can use here. Now finally I'm trying to discuss this particular %DOIMPL, the template. Template dot, what we can do here, we need to discuss about the update, any update method we have here. Get independent. So here we are having this update method. Now you can provide the parameter and another one, what is expecting here. So map of string comma something it is expecting. Okay, the name or parameter I can provide here. This particular Spring JDBC utility dot the name or insert query. Okay, here we need to provide the map here. So how I'm trying to providing this particular map, we need to create a map of string comma all the what we are having the particular sections here, ID int and the remaining strings. So we can move on to the object type. Okay, let me import this particular map here, map.util param map is equals to new hash map I'm trying to create. Okay, hash map we created. After this param map dot put. So what is the key we need to provide? Something like ID, and what is the value we can provide? Person dot get ID. Okay, and param map dot put the key, sorry, first name person dot get first name, and param map dot put we can discuss last name. Okay, now finally what I'm doing here I'm providing this particular same param map here, and what exactly this update will do, same thing. Now you can see it is trying to return the int. Okay, now what we can do, so whatever we implemented in our %DO, I will copy these two sections only. Getting the point? These two sections only we can copy it. So now if I'm going to provide instead of this particular two lines here, what we can do, so remove this. Getting the point? Make a question mark here. Update here. So this update, how it is going to connect here with help of this particular return value. Now finally this is we need yeah, println we need here colon Why we are getting this syntax? It is not working. Mismatch cannot convert from into 2 billion. Into 2 billion. Update. Why? This is the only update. Greater than 0 we can make it. Simply why it is not working. What is the into value? Int is into 2 billion. Okay, maybe it is not working. This value we are getting as an int. Okay, anyway, we'll go for the same existing code only. Update greater than 0. If it is true, it should print this. Okay, maybe it is not working this. So no problem. I have tried here. So if it is works, we can use on this. So return type the value. Now we are trying to print this particular section. Okay, so this is the same person. Now what we can do for this particular purpose, we'll try to create the same, but only what we can change it in the file section. Where is that? This
Sir,
class.
in that object declaration, what is the role of that hash map does?
Which line you are talking about?
18.
This. See, basically, this particular method, like this particular map, here we are going to use. Update method is expecting. First one is the first parameter SQL query, and the second one is expecting map of something. Okay, why it is expecting here? Because we are trying to providing the name of the column here. Where we are providing the name of the column inside this particular Jdbc utility. Here we are giving ID, name, and column. So this ID, name, and column, now it is going to match it with this values key. So once it is matched here, it will replace this particular key, this particular value, whatever we are going to get. So internally, inside this particular named query, it will compare with the keys, and key, if it is matched with the column name, the value automatically it is going to replace here. So automatically means internally the named parameter JDBC template, it will modify the values. Like it is going to internally insert the value from loading of this particular param map here. Okay. Now finally, what we can do, we need to discuss about this particular for some DAO name or parameter. Now here we need to modify the code. Where we can modify the code here, I'm trying to comment out this section. So this section, it is not going to use. Otherwise, we can move on to the bean ID. Not this. Name or parameter. JDBC template. Class we need to provide. So what is the class we can use? Here if I'm going to use, this is the class. Now you can paste this, and I'm copying constructor. We'll see this particular named parameter is having the constructor or any property. First I'm adding this, and this JDBC template is no longer, we are not using it. I'm trying to comment this. Okay, so named parameter we implemented. So finally, what is the class we can go for? So here, person DO named parameter. Here, okay, so instead of doing this, we can copy this entire section and comment out this, and we'll create this. And What is the parameter we can provide? Template we are having and named parameter JDBC template. So this is we need to provide. And finally, we'll go to the main class. Now I am going to comment out here all the sections. Okay, so this is we can comment out finally, and we'll enable the same whatever we used it, and instead of this particular 13 record, so 13 is already available. So if the 13 is already available, what is the last record? 15. We can go for the 16 record. The 16 record, string hyphen named here, named parameter JDBC template. Okay, now I'm running this example. We'll see what happens internally. Syntax error here, something like a colon. Somewhere we are missing this, like whatever the query we implemented, that is, it is giving an exception. So now you can see it is a PLSQL exception we are getting it. Now internally you can see query executor IMPL we are getting. From where we are trying to load here in the template itself here. So line number 22. Here we are getting an exception. Now if I'm going to check this, what we are missing here? Insert into person after values, what we are missing here? So ID and
There is some space in the last name, sir, between the colon and the last name.
okay, we'll identify this ID, first name and last name, and I will go for the same. Now I'm running. Now you can see inserted one record successfully. Okay, so that is the query syntax. We have some error. Now we resolve that. Finally, it is loaded this and successfully inserted. Now what we can do? We need to go to this particular database here. We need to identify here. Now you can see the name mode parameter JDBC template is inserted here. Getting the point? So this is the way of writing this particular name mode parameter. So what is the differences we identified? Name mode parameter and the simple JDBC. Getting the point? So basically the query, if you see this particular query itself, we can identify the differences here. Where is the file? Here. So here we are trying to providing the question marks here. So directly here we are providing the name of the columns here. So the name of the columns, how we are identifying internally with help of this particular map. With help of this particular map, we are trying to identify the columns, and based on that is inserting the record. Okay. Same way, now what we can do here, we need to load all the records here. Getting the point? So here we are trying to load all the records. So how we can load this particular records here? So we need to understand this. So something like so the same JDBC template we need to use, and template dot query. Sorry, we can go for this particular query, and we need to load this particular list of records here. So how we can load this particular list of records here? We can provide this, and again he is expecting the value. So this is not needed here, but query for object, if I'm going to use anything we have here, we'll identify here. Query for object. So the query for object, basically it will try to return this. We cannot go for this particular parameters. Now you can see this is the SQL parameter source, and internally it is trying to expecting the class type. So we don't need to provide any this particular class types here. So any other method we are having, row mapper type. So list of type, only one object we are having, one method. Any another method we are having, query for map. So this is related on the map here. long. This also list of things. Okay, any another we can check. So I'm trying to find out the like object. We are trying to load the list of records here. So for that purpose, we are trying to find which method is suitable here, because we have a lot of methods. So only simple differences we are going to have for this particular each and every method. Result set extractor, SQL parameter, class type. Other what this we can provide this. So we'll try to identify this particular query. What is the query we can write here? We'll try to define the query first. I'm going to copy the and here so named underscore this particular Jdbc template here. So using this particular named underscore Jdbc template here, now what we can do here, we need to understand the simple example here. Named parameter select star from person. Jdbc util name mode get all, and what is the second parameter is expecting a. So like we can write the second parameter SQL parameter source. So what is this SQL parameter source will contain here? That define the common functionality for the name of SQL parameters. So we'll see any method is available. I will define, like first we need to identify what is the information we are having inside this particular name or parameter. So hash value not required, get value, get SQL type, SQL type, get type name. So it will return the get SQL type. Okay. So when we are trying to use this particular parameter source here, it will try to convert the object here. But this parameter also, it is not needed. We'll try to load all the records, how we can load here. In set, we try to identify one more method here. This is not suitable. Where is the class? Here only, right? Parameter result map. Without this particular map, any another method we are having? So I think SQL row set we can provide. It is trying to return the SQL row set and SQL row set. This is parameter long and list of SQL parameter class type parameters. Only query related. So if we observe, so he's expecting three types and map, we cannot go for this particular map here. What is a JDBC template? JDBC template map SQL parameter ID and update and something like last name. Okay, so I think we can go for this particular only two parameters here. This we can use. Whatever the SQL parameter what we are having, source type. How many parameters we are having? Type name, get SQL type. Okay, we can see and define the type name or parameter. Oh, so this method is not defined here. So I think we cannot use this. The method is no longer available inside this, the SQL parameter. So we'll see any nearest method we are having. This is not using. Okay. Class type also we can provide. We can go for this particular class type. Here, for example, I'm giving null and person dot class. And this particular null we are going to replace it with the SQL mapping. So how many parameter is going to take internally? It is having lot of methods. So this method we cannot use as a lambda. This is we can use get to type, get to hash value, illegal exception, get value. Okay, I think we can use the every time this particular get value. Only one object we are getting. So I think this is also not needed. Only it is returning a one object, but we need to get list of objects here. How we can load the list of object here? Okay, so this particular method, I think we don't have the specific method. Okay, what I will do, so this method is no longer available, multiple records here. Let's see. Query for object is not working. Any list method? Here we are having row mapper and SQL parameter. So why we need to provide the two parameters? Not required. Here class type. Yeah, this method we can use. And person dot class. And here Spring Jdbc utils dot name or get all. And now I'm going to use SQL parameter. Okay, has value I'm not returning anything. Get value we are going to discuss. We'll identify what is the return type of this. So we are getting the list of person. Okay. So finally we are getting the list of persons. Now only here I'm going to create object. Parameter name. Okay, we need to put a breakpoint first here. We'll discuss here what is the parameter we are going to get. Person is equals to new person. And person dot first name, the param name. Why we are getting this? So okay, I'm just a constructor. Now I will put a breakpoint. We'll discuss here how this particular values we are going to get. From where we can call this. So same method I'm going to call from this particular main class here. I will comment to this section. And here I am enabling this. Let's see. So which method is suitable? Because we have a lot of method here. We need to identify which method is suitable here. Why we are having this? These many breakpoints. Oh, no, we are getting an exception. Okay, any exception I'm trying to handle? No such method exception. Okay, let's see why I'm getting this exception. Something in the debug section, we have an option to this, uncheck this. Where is this? Where? Debug configuration. Nothing is there. Why I'm getting this? Okay, so this is not the. Now it is calling. Okay, so the break is finding is not handling it. It is throwing an exception. Incorrect column, expected 1, but actually 3. So this is not suitable here. Whatever the method we are implementing, this is not the correct method here. Okay, anyway, now what I will do, I will come up with a different method here. So this method will work internally. So I will create a one method. So let me remove first this here. What is the method we can create here? This is important here. And here template dot query we can use. And why it is not having the method? Okay, let me see. The name mode parameter is extending from the operation. Okay, so why this is not extending? Map parameter. Let me search in the Google what is the best method. Name mode parameter query for object. Name mode parameter Jdbc template to load all the records from table. Jdbc template, not Jdbc template. How to use the queries thing. This is the where condition, again where condition. So where without the where condition, we need to use here. Insert, select from where. So this is wrong. No. We'll go for this. Anything we have. No. So it is internally using this parameter, map SQL parameter they are using. So this is we already identified here. No. Oh, we don't have a method. So where is name mode parameter? Name mode parameter Jdbc template. Insert. Wow, only insert they are having. Here also insert. Nice. Okay, so we'll only debug that because he's expecting parameters. So basically this is not needed. So we need a one more parameter without this particular SQL parameter, only the SQL query here. So row mapper, it is fine. We can convert into the object type here. And here, rollback handler. So which method is suitable? If I'm going to result set extraction. Okay, so what I will do, I will use this particular method to convert an object here. We'll make some null values here. Where is the class? Here only, right? This method I'm going to use here. Now, template.query, the SQL query, name or get all, and empty map, and result set extractor. What exactly the result set extractor will contain here? First, we need to identify result set extractor. And here, the type we can make as a person. And let me create a unimplement method, extract data. Okay. So this method should work here. Now, I will remove this. Simply, here I am going to make RS here. So we have already this. Okay, so this RS should work. Person dot set ID RS dot, same thing, whatever we defined get into here. So instead of doing this, we'll copy from here. Why we are getting here? Map is another generic method. Okay, it is the object we are writing. So it is not returning the person. It should return person basically. What is the method we copied here? So type. It is returning only single object. So row mapper. Row mapper. Okay, I think for list of object we can go for the row mapper only. Query for line. Okay, so anyway, RS comma row. Sorry. The method query is ambiguous for the name parameter template. Oh, we don't have a specific method. I think we have. Just now we are identified. It is expecting map. Okay. So instead of this particular null, list of person. make suppress one. Okay, after this, so we can check that same condition, whatever the condition we are using. Okay, it is working. So basically, we have a lot of method inside this particular the named parameter. So because of that, we could identify the exact method here. But finally, we are loading all the record, but with help of this particular same whatever the named parameter. Getting the point. Now you can see I tried to find out the nearest like the matched method, but we could not find. But unfortunately, we are making the collection as an empty list here, empty map here, and we are trying to converting row map. So here the result set extractor is returning only single object. The row mapper it is trying to return in the multiple objects here. Okay, so finally, if I'm going to print this, the row, you will understand how many rows we are getting here. So you can see 0 to 6. Okay, 0 to 6 records we are having. So whatever the object we are having internally, this is the count here. Getting the point. This is the way we can identify how this particular named parameter is going to work. So we'll continue the remaining methods. So two methods we discuss here, remaining two methods we can discuss here. These are the simple methods. So simply we can make the condition and we can load the values. But only the problem, I find out the nearest method for this particular get all persons here, but we could not identify. So we made the collection empty, collections as empty, and later we are returning this. Any questions? Okay, if we don't have anything, so we can discuss in the two like evening session, the remaining method, whatever we are having, the pending method. So once we clear this, now we'll try to identify the same example with the annotation, and later we'll move on to the Hibernate concepts here. So once we familiar with the annotation example, we'll move on to the Hibernate part, how we can communicate the Hibernate first. Later we'll discuss about the particular Spring with the Hibernate. So far I did not created any GitHub here, but I'm trying to create a new branch, and inside the branch I'm trying to push the core Java related and the Spring related section, whatever we discuss here. So give me some time, I will create this. So meanwhile, refer this particular recorded session. So, and you can practice. Okay, if you are having anything, let me know. We can discuss in the day-to-day sessions here. Okay, so we'll continue evening.